ready for a deep dive into the Garden of Eden. But not the version you're probably used to. We're going deep into the Urantia book and their take on it.
See, the Urantia book, it doesn't just retell the old story. It puts it into this huge cosmic history. Gives a whole new perspective.
So forget the snake and the apple, right? This is about, like, planetary rebellion, advanced civilizations, paradise lost, but in a really unexpected way.
Exactly. Long before Adam and Eve show up, see, the Urantia book talks about Earth, or Urantia as they call it. It was dealing with the fallout of this huge rebellion, led by this being called Caligastia.
This rebellion, though, this wasn't just some, like, small-time thing. This was a big deal, right? Changed everything for Urantia.
Absolutely. A cosmic fall from grace, you could say. And Urantia is thrown into this decline. That rebellion cast a long shadow.
So where do Adam and Eve come into all of this? I'm picturing, like, a planet in chaos.
Not quite chaos, but definitely struggling to recover. And it's into this world that we meet two groups. The Nodites, they descended from those who sided with Caligastia. And then there's the Emmedonites, known for staying loyal, and their culture was really advanced.
Okay, so we're not talking about cavemen here, right? These groups, they held on to something from a time before the rebellion.
Right, and what they held on to, that knowledge, their traditions, that's really important for understanding everything that happens next. They're like the keepers of the flame in a world that's forgetting its past.
And then comes a prophecy, right? A son of God who's supposed to set humanity back on the right path. How did everyone react to that?
Hope, this prophecy, it gave people hope, and it inspired action, especially for this one leader, Van. He really believed they needed to be ready for when the sun arrived.
And then that's where the garden comes in, right? But this isn't just any garden. We're talking about a utopia planned out perfectly.
You got it. Imagine this peninsula, almost an island, with the most perfect climate. Rain was almost unnecessary.
Okay, now I'm picturing something truly beautiful. Lush, green mists.
The Urantia book describes incredible beauty, but Van's vision was bigger than that. He saw a model city, proof of what a civilization could be. 1 million people, paved roads, amazing irrigation. Even a sewage system, can you believe it?
Wait, sewage? In Eden? That's not what I was expecting.
It changes how you think about paradise, doesn't it? But that's the thing about Van Practical. This wasn't just a pretty place. It was about building a society that could last, advanced, but in harmony with nature.
And at the center of this city, the tree of life. But we're not talking about a regular tree, are we? This one's different.
Extraordinary, you could say. The Urantia book says this tree could actually extend life through what it calls space energies. And these energies, they fought back against aging.
Hold on. Are you saying this wasn't just a symbol? That it really could make you live longer? These space energies sound intense?
It's a wild idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
Makes you think about things in a new way. What were those energies? How did they work? Those are the questions the Urantia book wants us to consider.
Mind-blowing. But if it really could make you live longer, wouldn't everyone want it?
You bet. And the Urantia book is clear about one thing. The tree didn't work for everyone. Only those with a certain complement.
Complement? Okay, now we need to explain that. What does it even mean in this context?
Okay, that's one of the most interesting parts of this whole thing. The Urantia book describes it almost like spiritual compatibility. You couldn't just take it. It was something you had to be ready for.
So we've got this civilization, more advanced than ever, an amazing city, and this tree that could change everything. It's almost too good to be true. But something tells me it doesn't last.
You'd be right about that. You see, paradise, even one as well-planned as this garden, it can be a fragile thing.
So we're talking about this incredible society flourishing in the garden, but it's not going to last, right? What happened? Was it Adam and Eve that caused the problems?
Adam and Eve coming to the garden, that was definitely important. But their role in how it all ended up, well, it's more complicated than you might think.
Complicated. Okay, now I'm really interested. What does the Urantia book say about them?
It says that the garden being destroyed, it wasn't really Adam and Eve's fault. It was more because of the Nodites and how they felt. Remember, they were descended from the rebels, so they had that rebellious streak in them.
Right, the Nodites. So were they, like, jealous of Adam and Eve? Did they feel threatened or something?
Jealousy probably played a part, yeah. But the Urantia book says there was more to it than that. It's like they were obsessed with power, with living forever. They saw Adam and Eve there connected to the tree of life, and they felt like it was all being taken away from them.
So what they really wanted was that compliment. What did they do about it?
They rebelled. The Urantia book talks about how they planned this whole attack on the garden right in the center of it.
They attacked the tree of life. That must have been insane.
It was a disaster. They thought that if they ate from the tree, they would get that immortality they thought Adam and Eve had. But they missed the point completely. They weren't spiritually ready. They didn't have that complement.
It's like they wanted to skip to the end without doing the work, you know? Just tragic. What happened right after the attack?
Everything was destroyed, just like that. They were so angry, so driven by what they wanted, that they wrecked the temple in the garden. Of course, they destroyed the tree of life.
So they didn't just rebel, they ruined everything. They destroyed the one thing they thought they needed.
And when they did that, they made sure that no one else could benefit from the garden. The Urantia book suggests that it wasn't just a physical destruction, but a spiritual one, too.
It's like they cut off the connection between humanity and something bigger.
Exactly. Destroying the tree of life, that was a huge step backwards spiritually for everyone on Urantia.
So what even happened to the garden after that? Did it just disappear, or was it even worse than that?
The Urantia book describes what happened. It's intense. Volcanoes erupting, earthquakes, the ground breaking apart.
And the garden, what happened to this beautiful place?
It was gone. The whole peninsula, the entire garden, it sank into the ocean. Just gone.
Wow, that's an ending, that's for sure. But was it just a natural disaster, or was it something more, does the Urantia book say?
That's what's so cool about the Urantia book.
Huh.
It always makes you think about the connections between what's happening in the physical world and what's happening spiritually. It doesn't say outright that the disaster happened because they destroyed the garden, but it makes you wonder if they're related.
So maybe not a punishment exactly, but a consequence.
Right.
Or even just a way to start over.
Right. You have to think.
Yeah.
And maybe this huge destructive event was actually part of something much bigger. Remember, the Urantia book always comes back to the idea that things are progressing, that things are evolving, even if there are setbacks.
And it's saying that Adam and Eve were there for a reason, that it wasn't just about taking care of a garden.
Absolutely. They were there to share knowledge, to help people grow spiritually. It was a much bigger task than just gardening.
So even though the garden was destroyed, it doesn't mean their work was done. But what happened to Adam and Eve themselves? So the garden's gone, sunk to the bottom of the ocean. What about Adam and Eve? Did they just, I don't know, pack up and go home? What about their big mission to help humanity?
The Urantia book is pretty clear. Just because the garden's gone, it doesn't mean humanity's out of luck. Adam and Eve, they weren't like the other people on the planet. They weren't dependent on the tree of life in the same way.
Yeah, they were different, but they still ate from it, right? So what happened when they couldn't anymore?
They became more human, you could say, subject to aging and death, just like everyone else. The book even suggests that this was part of the plan all along. By experiencing life as humans do, they could understand us better, connect with the people they were meant to help.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. They were going through the same things we do, feeling what we feel. That would definitely make them more relatable.
Exactly. They could continue their mission, even without the physical garden or the tree. It was about something bigger.
So what does this all mean for us, thinking about this story now after all these years?
That's the thing about the Urantia book, isn't it? It makes you think beyond the surface, beyond just the literal story. If the Garden of Eden wasn't just a place, and the tree of life wasn't just some magic fruit, then what else could be hidden in our world? In us.
Wow, you're right. It makes you think that even without a real-life garden, we can still try to be better, to learn more, be kinder, all the things are represented.
Absolutely. Find that garden inside yourself, The Urantia book wants us to nurture those good things inside each of us, to learn to connect with something bigger than ourselves. That's the legacy of that lost paradise. We can build a better world, even when things are tough, even when we face setbacks.
That's a pretty good message to end on, don't you think? The idea of Eden, searching for knowledge, becoming more enlightened, it's all still alive in us. It's something to think about, how we're all part of that story, searching for knowledge and understanding in our own ways.